Perks and buffs are an essential part of most games out there, but picking the right buffs can be tricky. Not just because of the wide selection of upgrades you get to choose from, but also because, in some cases, the power-ups can actually make you weaker. Despite what the name might suggest, some buffs don't actually make your character more buff. Due to glitches, poor design, or even the deliberate choice of a nefarious developer, they hinder your character's abilities and can make your life significantly harder. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 video gamer upgrades you totally regretted. Number 10. Night Person. Fallout 4. Fallout 4 boasts an impressive collection of perks and abilities that help your sole survivor thrive in the harsh post-apocalyptic environment of the Commonwealth. Most perks in the game can make a genuine difference in your playstyle, adding powerful modifiers and extra functionality. This said, one particular perk is different in that it does make a great change to your game, but for the worse. Night Person is a perk that, as the name suggests, makes your character fight more efficiently at night. The first level of the perk is actually fairly useful. It increases your intelligence and perception while the sun is down, but the second level can permanently ruin your game. On the second level, Night Person gives you night vision when sneaking, which sounds great, but you realize it's not so great as soon as you use a rifle with a night vision scope. The combined brightness of your doubled night vision is so blinding it renders all night scope rifles useless. And while you can replace night scopes with regular ones, the former can come with additional functionality like marking your targets, ironically making your night-attuned character less functional in darkness. Becoming Count Dracula had never sounded this lame. Number 9. Slacking. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Pokemon evolutions are generally supposed to make your Pokemon stronger. This said, there are exceptions to that rule, one of which is the Pokemon whose laziness can challenge even that of Snorlax, slacking. Slacking is the final evolution of the sloth Pokemon Slackoth. It's a giant ape who can pack a lot of punch with its attacks, but it comes with one annoying trait that makes this increase in power completely worthless. Slacking, like his first form Slackoth, possesses the Truant ability, which causes it to skip every other turn out of sheer laziness. This perhaps wouldn't feel like such a big downgrade if it weren't for the fact that Slackoth's middle evolution, Vigoroth, loses this trait and is much more competent for it. Slacking's impressive stats might make it seem like gaining the trait back is worth it, but losing an entire turn is deadly in the turn-based combat of Pokemon. The truth is, you're gonna do just as much, if not more, by keeping your Vigoroth unevolved, while all it takes is losing 4 turns with slacking due to the enemy using Protect to realize you completely regret upgrading to the final evolution. Number 8. Trickster. Crusader Kings 2. Crusader Kings 2, like many other Paradox Interactive grand strategies, is a game that relies heavily on winning wars. You want your armies to be strong enough to paint the map in the colors of your nation, and that means having good generals who can lead your troops to glory. Your generals, like any other character in the game, can learn new skills and obtain special personality traits that make them more effective in battle. That is, unless we're talking about the Trickster trait. Generals with the Trickster trait increase the top and bottom value caps of the dice rolls you make in combat. This means they should have a greater chance of outdoing the enemy while also risking more failure, but in reality this means your general will be stuck losing battles at random. The lowered value cap means your general can still roll worse than someone with a worse combat skill. And just a few bad rolls like that can lose you any battle regardless of your army size, the general skill, and how much better you are than your opponent. War and gambling are already bad as they are. There's no need to mix them into something even more terrible. Number 7. Speed Demon. Project Zomboid. Most zombie media teaches us that the most useful thing in the event of an undead apocalypse is a car. Project Zomboid is no different in this regard, making cars a convenient commodity that provides you with a safe way to traverse long distances, haul large quantities of items, and even take a nap without worrying about any bite marks. All these benefits might tempt you to build your character around driving cars, and Project Zomboid actually provides you with a perk to improve your driving. The only problem is this upgrade secretly makes you a worse driver. The Speed Demon perk allows you to drive cars faster than their speed limit allows, and while that might sound useful, in reality, all it means is a whole lot of car crashes. The truth is, since you're the only driver in the zombie apocalypse, there's no point in driving faster. In fact, if anything, the increased speed makes it harder to react to obstacles and avoid lethal accidents. Project Zomboid skilled drivers, ironically, die more frequently than regular characters while behind the wheel, as they won't notice a sudden curve or a car wreck on the road. So don't get the trait. Better safe than sorry. Number 6. Plaguebearer, Age of Wonders 4. Age of Wonders 4 is a turn-based strategy game about demigods competing for influence over magical realms. A big part of the game is fighting battles against your opponent's armies, and winning them can rely a lot on the heroes you put in charge of your soldiers. Each hero comes with unique traits that provide buffs for your empire and your units. But the thing is, not every upgrade they give is worth your time. As a matter of fact, one of them, Plaguebearer, makes winning fights significantly harder. Plaguebearer gives your hero a permanent disease that makes them weaker in combat, but allows them to spread the plague effect to nearby units. At first glance, it looks like a trade-off that could make for an interesting tactic, but in truth, it's really just a nuisance. The plague makes your leader easier to kill, which significantly lowers your unit's morale. Not surprising, because of the whole plague thing. And since the ability spreads diseases to all units, most of the time you're going to come out of combat with half your army suffering the effects of your self-inflicted epidemic. You might win some battles this way, but in the long run, the plagues will wear your armies down and eventually thin them completely. Honestly, this one kind of says everything on the tin. It might have been your fault for taking it. Number 5. In Shining Armor, Fallout New Vegas. If Fallout 4 has a lot of character perks, then Fallout New Vegas has a metric ton. From combat and survival skills to social perks and even upgrades that alter the entire map of the Mojave, New Vegas gives you full agency over how you build your character and offers all the necessary upgrades to make your apocalyptic dreams come true, especially if you're looking to maximize their efficiency of your metal armor, and it's all due to one annoying bug. In Shining Armor is a perk that increases your resistance to laser damage if you're wearing metal armor. The perk looks really useful if you're looking to clad your courier in shiny steel, but once you purchase it, you quickly realize that it does absolutely nothing. You see, due to a typo in the script, the resistance modifier of the perk doesn't apply to laser damage and instead boosts your defense to a non-existent type of attack. The perk is a waste of a perfectly good trait slot, and when you think about it, it's actually worse than useless, seeing as you have a limited amount of level ups and the trait deprives you of one trait slot you could have spent on something actually useful. Number 4. Egypt, Europa Universalis 4. Europa Universalis 4 is a grand strategy where your goal is to become the most powerful country in the age of colonization. To help you achieve this goal, the game features several formidable nations, historically important countries that offer unique buffs and perks that make you more powerful after you reform your government and don their flag. This said, not every formidable nation is worth the struggle of creating it. In the case of Egypt, it even makes your nation significantly worse. The problem with Egypt, in the game, I think we should be clear, in the game, is that unlike other formidable nations, it doesn't offer any benefits, but it still overrides any unique cultural perks of your original country, like the unique government mechanics of the Mamelukes, who might be tempted to turn into Egypt given they already control all of the region. The worst part of this is that forming the nation takes resources and time, so you basically have to pay for making yourself less effective. But hey, at least you got a cool new flag and change your border's color to a dark shade of green, so that's cool. Number 3. Mounts, Total War Warhammer 3. Total War Warhammer 3 allows you to upgrade your generals and heroes to turn them into inspiring leaders or one-person armies. To this extent, you may choose from dozens of different abilities, and one of them, a mount upgrade, is what most players usually pick as soon as they're able to, since they're generally a good upgrade. Mounts increase the speed, attack, and armor rating of your characters, plus they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, from simple horses to raptors, dragons, and even giant crabs. Giant enemy crabs, I assume. This said, not every mount is worth it, and in fact, if you're building a hero that can solo fight enemy armies, you'll want to drop most mounts altogether. You see, mounts, being large animals, increase the size of your character, which makes them really easy to surround and barrage with ranged attacks. The mounted heroes then tend to soak up damage like a sponge and die within minutes after charging into the enemy. The bigger the mount, the greater the number of places it can be hit. So unless you give your mounted heroes some smaller units to protect them from getting overwhelmed, it's best to keep them on foot. They could probably use the exercise anyway. Number 2, Deadeye, XCOM 2. In XCOM 2, you play as a group of rebels trying to defeat the alien invaders that have taken over Earth. Your team has scarce resources and a limited number of recruits to employ, which is why every upgrade you choose matters. For the most part, there's no right or wrong when picking upgrade perks for your soldiers. Each has something good to offer, so you're encouraged to experiment. But then you have Deadeye. Deadeye is a perk that allows the character to sacrifice their accuracy to drastically increase their damage. In order to purchase it, you need to pick it over Quick Draw, a perk that allows you to make a second attack with your pistol on the same turn. Now, the amount of damage you gain by sacrificing accuracy makes it seem like it's worth more than a second weaker attack. However, due to the game's mechanics, it's actually the opposite. Because of the way RNG works in XCOM, dropping your accuracy will make you miss more shots than you're anticipating. And because you're limited in how much you can attack, 2 weaker but more accurate attacks end up being stronger than a single overpowered strike that consistently misses. Number 1, Baldachin's Blessing, Elden Ring. Like many other From Software Souls-likes, Elden Ring likes to be pretty vague about what's going on and what the things you find do. For the most part, it's not a big deal, since you can figure most of it out for yourself as you explore the world. That said, there is one upgrade where we really would like a heads-up warning before we made the mistake of activating it. Baldachin's Blessing is a buff you get from hugging Fia and sharing some of your life's vigor with her. This sounds like yet another esoteric Elden Ring babble at first, but once you check what the buff you received does, you realize you actually did share some vigor with Fia. 1 point of it to be exact, or to put it bluntly, a permanent 5% decrease in your health. Yep, Fia's Blessing makes you weaker and easier to kill. I mean, it can also protect you from being staggered, but this needs to be activated, and it still won't matter when that 5% decrease costs you a tough boss fight. Elden Ring is the only game that will call you maidenless and then trick you into giving up your health for trying to comfort an ill woman.